Hello, it's Brandy and Shannon with the Thriving Relationship.
Tuesday. Tuesday. I always say that because it always just all of a sudden we're back.
All of a sudden it's Tuesday again. Here we are.
Yeah. And it's a bit warmer. Although, Brandy,
I'm actually cuddled up in a blanket tonight. That's so silly.
It's just,
I can't warm
up. In the 30s.
I know, that's what I was saying. Is like the warmer it gets, the colder I feel. I don't know. I'm acclimated to like negative 20-degree weather right now, and so my body doesn't know what to do with this heat wave of 30 degrees.
We'll do warm drinks and blankets. I don't know what we'll do in the summer. We're going to still drink warm drinks in the summer.
Probably have to put like wine or something in it. I don't know.
We'll see what it does. What happens. So tonight, this is, I don't know what's happened in the last week. We usually come up with a topic idea, I don't know, a day or two before. And last week we came together and we're like, what do we really want to talk about in a week? And we were actually able to come up with something.
Yeah, when we have time to plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we came up with a topic. And it's a topic that is very meaningful to both of us. It's also an interesting, it's kind of, I don't know that taboo is the word.
It's a little anxiety provoking.
Anxiety provoking, lots of resistance comes with this topic.
Yeah. And we usually pick topics that are a little less.
Yeah.
So and it's really like we went from an idea and then I wrote a blog and then the blog turned into 3 blogs. And so now there's a series of blogs. And so we know that in the live tonight, like we decided we'll just see where it goes.
Yeah,
because there's so many ideas turning through my head, especially after writing 3 blogs, that we will see where this goes.
That's a lot of buildup.
I know. So now we'll see where it goes. So we want to talk to the military first responder community. And I always go back to like, why is this interesting? Why in social work, mental health, you can go in so many directions. And this is one that's always just intrigued both of us.
Yes.
And I know personally for me, 2 grandparents, well, at least, we're not going back in the family tree.
Right.
So grandparents that I grew up with that were in World War II, a father who is a war history buff. And then I have 2 brother-in-laws who are military / law enforcement backgrounds. So it just seems to be everywhere, not in my immediate. No. I have never served, but I'm surrounded and I'm really intrigued with trying to support and really frustrated because my nerdy self, I'm constantly reading the different articles that are coming out with the really awful statistics. And the one that had me go into blog zone was the article on the suicide rate in law enforcement is higher than the actual incidents.
Right, yeah, more
for the 3rd year in a row.
Yeah, more law enforcement lives are lost to suicide than they are in the line of duty.
There you go.
Yeah. Together.
So
together we're one brain.
We're one tonight. So for you,
so for me, I have a variety of different family members that are or were, veterans, still active. An uncle that is a law enforcement. My husband, until just recently, spent almost 20 years in probation and parole, felony probation and parole. And then I work at our local county jail. So I work with law enforcement and like we're coworkers, not like I work with law enforcement.
Right.
I work with the ones they arrest. That is who I work with as my clients. But yeah, so I get to, sit down and have lunch with these guys, and I just get to see them day in and day out. And obviously I see more so the corrections side, right? Like, cause I'm in the jail. And I do still get to interact quite a bit with, the patrol and a lot with probation and did I say my dad was a fireman?
No.
I love firemen, but I know how like the firemen and like law enforcement, like battle is always fun. Like in fact, in our town, we have a huge baseball game every summer with like guns versus hoses, that type of thing. Yeah. So yeah, I was also raised by a fireman, and so you know, it's kind of funny now he's retired and we converse and we actually talk about how much the population I work with is a lot like the population he was going to calls on, right? Like he was, you know, showing up where lots of overdoses and domestic violence situations and just lots of high stress situations that even as a, you know, ambulance driver, fire truck driver, like our paths really crossed as far as the people we get to work with and interact with. So yeah, that's kind of
background.
Some of my background.
The why. That's the why we try. So statistically, we know that, you know, the increased risk of suicide, PTSD. I just wrote it yesterday, so I should know this. High blood pressure. The toll it takes on your body to be in that stress response constantly.
Yeah, I think there's like a big dump of cortisol constantly, which has lots of bad things that come with it when you're constantly in a state of cortisol. I know with the veterans that I get to work with, that's a big thing is when they're constantly dealing with the, like, I'm in a war zone, I'm in a life-threatening situation, even though it's not, you know, it's going to the grocery store or some of the things, but that's not what it feels like. The havoc that all that extra cortisol and other things that get dumped into your body just are, they're really problematic.
And functioning that way for, I know for me, you know, I get a little adrenaline dump getting on Facebook Live for a minute, and then I go take a bath and all is well. And so needing to be on, you know, on in a way that most of us don't have to be on in our
very
jobs.
Often at all.
Right. For prolonged periods of time. And so what I've found, and is the most intriguing, so with all of the different arenas, obviously there needs to be support, you know, physical health, mental health, all of it, but we want to focus on relationships as our little piece of the puzzle. And so what we see is for couples, if you have someone who is always on, you know, it is difficult sometimes when you get home to not continue to have that higher level of response. And that can lead to, distress. It can lead to all sorts of interesting relationship issues. And so that's, you know, one of our pieces. And we were able to get statements from one of the people I've worked with that's in the blog that you need to check out tonight. And he put it so well, and I don't want to butcher it, but the point is that in order to be really, you know, a whole person out there doing his job, he needs to be able to come home to a home environment where things are going well too. And so to do the best he can, relationship is an important piece to that.
Yeah, that helps him be able to go into the job and be on much more effectively than when your mind is half at home because, you know, there's fights or there's stress or there's lots of loneliness or whatever else it is that comes up when, you know, we feel like we're kind of having chaos in home or disconnection or just all of those different emotions that can kind of come up at times.
Yeah. So I think one of the, and we talked about it earlier, but one of the things we see is that, you know, we go to what we're naturally skilled in. And so Brandy and I like to talk. We're skilled in feeling people's emotions, being able to feel with them. And first responder military, you guys are able, and gals, you people, are able to respond in situations in a way that's effective. You don't want to run from things that most of us want to run from.
Right, you guys run in when the rest of us run away.
You don't freeze. You are able to go into, you use your stress response to do the things that you need to do. And that is a beautiful thing in your work. And I don't want anyone that's protecting me not doing this. But when you go home, a lot of times it's difficult to create space for some of that emotion. Or maybe it's you know, I can go to problem solving very quickly. My job is to problem solve. And so you have an issue, here, let me fix it. as opposed to creating the space, getting likes, creating the space to be able to hear. You know, there's a video that we share with our couples at our retreats that there's a nail.
It's not about the nail.
It's not about the nail. There's a nail. And what I find in a lot of couples that I work with is it's like, no, we need to go into problem solving. Like, I don't necessarily want to, I see it in a very black and white, good, bad way. And I need you to be able to go with me. But a lot of times the spouse is like, no, I just need to sit here and be able to talk through this. Can get a little complicated. I don't know if anyone on here has experienced that, but that's one of the areas that in relationship work I really target on. Like, how do you go from a space at work where you need to be on, mm-hmm. and you need to make snap decisions.
Right, you're looking for clues to make decisions and to gather and be able to do something then effectively, right? Like, action is oftentimes what you're looking to be able to do.
And then how can you go back to family environment and create a little space for it not being quite as quick? Because what we see is the spouse or the child can feel like, you're just not hearing me, you're not getting it, and it can cause discord. And the truth is they are. It's just if they just jump to fix it.
Right. Something I can remember growing up with that I think has the real potential to kind of be a carryover trait or struggle that could be for those careers that really sit in high stress a lot was that based on what you experience day in and day out at work, it becomes really hard to like connect to or relate with or have empathy for, like the stresses that the family at home might be going through.
I want the purple
right?
cup.
Yes, like my favorite is, and you know, we get to very lovingly and jokingly talk about this in my veterans group, where you know, they come back from a combat zone and you know, they're still dealing with those struggles, and then they try to go to the grocery store and the lady in front of them is like trying to get out their coupon to save 25 cents, and like my vet's head is exploding that like, why are you wasting my time? I just want to get through the checkout. Like, here's some explicit, whatever the word is, swear words, colorful words, language, interesting adjectives. You know, here's the quarter, save the quarter, right? Like, it can be really hard to have patience for what, you know, we always talk to as like the civilian world, right? And those are the day-to-day things that the rest of your family is generally dealing with. And sometimes they're higher stress things. But that was something I could relate to as a kid, was that my dad had a hard time, well, as a single dad too, but trying to come home from like scooping kids up off the street and dealing with drug overdoses and just dealing with really life and death things, to then come home and try to relate to his 15-year-old daughter who's upset over like Lord knows what, right? I think that was a hard thing at times, to be able to make that transition. And so I think that's another area where those high stress situations just can make that challenge, you know, make that more challenging.
Yeah. And I think one of the things I'm always trying to work on, and I jokingly approach it as like they're constantly interacting with the dark and twisty. And so there is this part of humanity that most of us like to just pretend isn't really there.
Right, yeah, like, pretend, or we really don't know that it's there.
Or we don't even see it, or we're just voting it off to an island.
Right. Not in my neighborhood, not in my backyard, right?
Right, not here. Yeah, actually, I've had that conversation. Like, no, Shannon, you should lock your doors. But there's this, you know, there's this nice little, and I call it the rainbows and butterflies. Like, I can just go and see hope, and I can see joy, and I can see all of these things. And a lot of times, if you're spending day in, day out dealing with dark and twisty, you start to really, you know, feel like the world is, well, and I don't want to step into it here because it'll be like, it is dark and twisty, but there can be an overabundance of dark and twisty in your mind. It's just like, for me, I always joke about how once in a while I have to grab Brad's phone because after a day at work, I'm pretty sure that everyone is having an affair, everyone. And so I'll scroll his phone. And so I have to anchor back into the fact that not everyone is having an affair, unless you count farming and potatoes right now. And so I have to be very careful to not start to think that all relationships are really struggling. And so it's the same, like, so they love the question of, like, how are you tapping into your rainbows and butterflies? Like, how are you making sure that there's some hope, there's some joy, because it can get overwhelming if you're just, and you have to be focused at work, and I understand that, but anchor back to something that isn't the dark and twisty when you're home. What other thoughts do you have? There's so many different, we want awareness on just the, I can't remember who shared the story that a lot of times when they're out to like dinner with their wife or just out in a social setting and someone hears that they're in law enforcement, a lot of times they will get literally accosted by people who, and just, you know, can you imagine being in I mean, the worst part about our profession is people don't want to hang out with us because they think
you're a couples therapist.
Like, we'll see into your souls or something. But to not be able to just have, you know, just kind of just go out and socialize without either having all the questions or actually having someone be aggressive with you because of the job that you have.
Yeah, I think we kind of have an interesting, at least maybe through more social media and through more of those just media forms, that there's an attack happening towards law enforcement, which you take a job that really doesn't pay that well. and it's, you know, most of these jobs don't pay that well, and there's lots of risk to life and limb and all of those other things when you go to them. And then the very people that you're going to work to protect, you know, when you start to, you know, experience or feel that backlash or that attacking, or just, there's an interesting spin happening in our culture right now. And so that's going to take its toll as well.
Yeah.
There's always the joke, like I said, I work with law enforcement all day, and they're like, everybody likes firemen, they all love firemen, right? Like, everyone should grow up to be a fireman, right? Like, but in our culture right now, you know, yeah, I mean, our law enforcement specifically are very much so under
supported. Yeah, and another big piece of it, I think, is the fear of, like, going out and seeking help as far as coming into a therapy office. The fear is like, well, am I going to get tagged with a diagnosis that could really impact my job?
Right.
Am I going to go hang out with a woman who has absolutely no idea of what I've been through, what I'm going through? Maybe she doesn't even want to hear about dark and twisty. Maybe she's not capable of hearing dark and twisty. Right. And so we understand the fear there. And that's one of the big pieces about the retreat that we love, is that we're trying to get couples to come in to work on relationship-specific issues. There's no diagnosis. There's no stigma around that or any way for it to bite you.
Right.
And so it's private. We don't put you up on stage and say, here, please talk through all of I'm an introvert. I would hate that. I don't want to do that. So she might know. But it's the trying to figure out how to support in a way where there isn't the fear associated. And then as far as dark and twisty, have some of the stories I sat with. Do they sit in here? Yes. But am I aware that, like, I'm so grateful that I'm just hearing it second hand. Like, I can imagine what it's like to actually, I'm a visual person, but I'm not there seeing it and smelling it and hearing it. And that processing piece can be so important to being able to heal. And maybe you don't want to do that at home with your spouse. And so I encourage people to find the right fit. There's all sorts of different types of mental health providers, and some would be great support, some are not, but shop around. Yeah. Any questions? We have people hanging out. We've got a quiet bunch tonight. They're all very quiet.
I said that my husband will come up with some really interesting something to ask.
He will
That'll
chime
be
in.
awkwardly embarrassing or something. Well,
We have likes, but no.
there's the blog. It's a three-part blog.
Well, it started as one.
Right. That's okay. I love it.
And I love that my sister is great at being able to see that, like, you've got a lot of information. Like, people are not going to stay with you for this amount of time. And so we were able to expand and put it into a 3-part blog. And
when will the next 2 parts be coming out?
So first one's out right now, and then we'll just follow it out. Second part tomorrow, third part on Thursday.
Day. Okay,
we'll just
awesome.
do days. Yes.
Awesome. And you know what we didn't even mention is, so yeah, obviously, like, we put together these retreats to try and give a safe way, a non-diagnostic way, it's not therapy way, right? It's really helping you and your partner create space to have conversations, and we support you kind of as you go through the conversations, so that you have the opportunity to usually have a more effective conversation, right? But we have got a law enforcement deal, or law enforcement, first responders, military deal.
You need a whole.
I know. I need a word.
Protectors.
Yes, protectors. Right, our superheroes. We have a deal going. We've got a discount going, and so you get $75 off if you purchase before.
Carrie will chime in on the date. I know it's at least a couple weeks.
Okay,
there's time.
Yeah. So if if that sounds interesting to you, we want to build in extra appreciation for your services.
Yeah.
To come participate in our services.
Yeah, and just like all the amazing training you've been through, you can also learn emotions and feelings and all those fun.
March 20th.
Scare you. March 20th is the end of the appreciation deal. But there's ways to communicate. There are tools that you can learn. So that's our skill area that we would like to offer.
And think of it, sometimes you go to trainings where you get to learn how to more effectively communicate with, someone who they are dysregulated or they're on drugs or whatever it is, and you learn kind of crisis intervention tasks to help protect you and that person you're interacting with. Or if you have to go and execute a mission, you learn all these different things to help you do this. We say retreat, maybe you think training.
No, we mean retreat.
Skill set, right? Because that's what we're going to do. It's coaching, right? It is coaching. It is skills. It is tools that you'll get to walk away with. So.
More training. Yes, Okay, we'll go with the word training. I'll go with retreat. You go with training, and then we'll all be happy.
Yes. Oh, all right.
All right. Any final questions?
No. Send us questions if you have questions. We are generally pretty quick to respond.
Please spread. Share the live or share the blogs. We're just trying to get more and more information. So, both awareness and
comment below. Let us know what you think.
Yeah.
We are pretty darn aware of how difficult or challenging tapping into this community, this law enforcement, first responder, military community would be for something like this. But we are not quitters. We do hard things.
We're annoying.
Yep.
Almost.
And so this is something that's really meaningful to us, and we're going to kind of keep working our way on it just to see how we can try to support this community that we have such a deep appreciation for. So, we would love feedback or...
Yeah, if you have ideas. Yeah. We've tossed around the idea of doing just a very specific retreat only for first responder military community. We would love to be able to be part of the solution instead of just sitting back and reading all the articles that are pretty sad.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Thank you for playing with us tonight. And until next Tuesday.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, everyone. You guys have a wonderful Tuesday evening.